Time for another scam, you guys. Over $5,000 at another shop. It's still not fixed. Nothing has changed. It's still broken, just the same as it was when he brought it in. The longest intro I've ever had. Let's get started. Obviously, I'm riled up. I'm usually surprised by some of the crazy things that come through the shop, but this one's actually got me angry. This is stupid. This is a 1999 Nissan Pathfinder, and this is the customer's fishing vehicle. They just use it to go fishing. They just want it to run right again. It has some issues with the engine, that it stalls, it surges, it runs really bad. And like I just mentioned in the intro, they took it to a shop that's not too far from here. Over $5,000 and a bunch of unnecessary repairs to solve nothing. It left out of this shop just as broke as it did when it entered after $5,000 worth of work. I would be livid. I would be so angry. Let's take a look around this thing. Here's the front of this Pathfinder. This is one of the first years of this generation of Pathfinder. We really like them because me and Mrs. Wizard used to have one many years ago. Do you remember it, Mrs. Wizard?
I do. It's actually this exact same color. It was our first car we ever had as a married couple.
It was. The first car we bought together. We were fairly newlyweds. It was a pretty good car, but it had some suspension issues, and at the time we didn't have the money to dump into it. So this one has over 200,000 miles on it, and it does present decent for the amount of miles and years that it has. As soon as we get it fixed, it'll be running and driving decent again. Let's go ahead and let Mrs. Wizard show you guys around the interior.
Okay, ladies and gents, apologies first. I have a cold. I won't be telling you who gave me the cold, but you might recognize him. Nonetheless, let's go ahead and look at this dash. 218,947 miles. Wow, quite impressive. Easy to re-gauge because they're a little dusty in there, but again, it is a fishing vehicle, so I can imagine he doesn't keep it pristine, but we can see all the warning lights that are there. I'm going to take our hand away. Everything's looking good. Go ahead and turn that off, save his battery. We don't need anything else wrong. We do see a bit of a crack there in the dash and a little dust, but again, this isn't a spring chicken, so it's not new in any means. And again, it probably sits outside a lot of the time, but everything else is looking okay. Got very simple to use controls. He has upgraded the stereo system to a much better system than before. And it has a lot of options that could have been on this model, but didn't, because there's all of where they should be, but none of them are there. We do see that we have control for our four-wheel drive system and a gear selector for our automatic transmission. As we move back, you'll see we do have our e-brake and cup holders, and we do have a nice little storage spot in the center section. As we go to our seats, wow, those are impressively designed cloth seats, but they are looking good. No rips, no tears, maybe a little dusty, a little dirty, but other than that, it's looking great. Door card is looking good, has more of that cloth that we saw on the seat on there as well. And on the floorboard, he has some nice rubber mats on there to keep it as clean as possible when you're going out fishing. As we look at our back seat, again, more of that fun cloth interior, that pattern, and it looks like there's some of his camo gear for when he's fishing. And our headliners, good condition. Does have a cover on our steering wheel, but we don't know what's going on underneath. Maybe it's fine, maybe it's just protection. I don't know, we're not going to find out. Live in mystery for the rest of your life. I'm so sorry. We do have controls for our cruise control on there, and that's it. So enough of this interior talk. Let's get the hood open and see what's going on underneath there.
The engine bay here looks a little different from what I remember on ours, because ours was a 2001. So the one we had the 3.5, which is a little bit bigger version, a little bit updated version. It had really a lot of power. But if we look at the emission sticker on here, we can see it is the 3.3 liter. So they're fairly good engines. They have a little bit less power. The 3.5 was amazingly fast. I remember having it. But it still drives the same, operates a lot of the same as the one that we had. So it does have electronic ignition, but it still has the good old distributor right here. This is an old enough model that still has a distributor, even though it's electronically controlled. This harkens back to many decades before it with distributors. So here's the first page of the list I'm going to go over with you guys. Here's the customer's concern. The car is not running right. Check engine light is on, it's flashing. New spark plugs and wires, rear strut, timing belt. Those are some of the concerns the customer had. They did a level 2 analysis for $178, and it lists a whole bunch of things that they tested. It has really not much to do with what was wrong. It does mention power loss, service engine soon light, and drivability concerns. Confirm the concern, engine runs rough. They had an engine misfire on cylinder number 4. The customer has replaced it should be wires, plug and cap. They found a spark plug that was bad. They put a new spark plug in. Intake manifold gaskets, upper. This is the upper ones for $625. This is just the plenum gasket, not the lower intake gaskets. They put a new fuel injector. Well, it says remanufactured, I should say. Just one. It says remove and replace number 4, $724. Man, you guys say my prices are high. This is getting out of hand already, and we still have 2 pages to go. Inspection, comprehensive, $50. Remove and replace timing belt. Well, you know, they did a timing belt job. $1,800. Whoa, this should be about $1,000 for this timing belt job. Page 2. Just wait, there's more. A BG Platinum fuel service, intake GDI cleaner. This doesn't even have GDI. It's not even necessary. $250. Suspension shock struts in the rear, $428. And then a level 1 basic diagnostic. Why are we doing another diagnostic? We just did one. I don't understand that. $468 more. Air filter replacement, $13. Cooling system flush, $215. Front brake pad replacement, machine the rotors, $423. Brake fluid flush, $200. And there's still a little bit more on page 3. Just wait, there's more. Here's page 3. It shows the payments and things that were done. After taxes and all the fees, $5,377. And it left out of the shop, still broke. I've got a question for you guys. Instead of me answering questions, I'm going to let you do some answering. Comment what you think's going on. We have this problem that it stalls, and especially if you turn the headlights on or put any load, it runs really rough, it surges and wants to die. Here's the question. Why are we even worrying about struts and brake flushes and coolant flushes if we haven't solved the issue? Because they did a plenum gasket and a few other things on this. Obviously it wasn't fixed because the customer got the car back immediately doing the same exact thing as when he brought it. So that means that they did the work on the engine, it didn't fix it, and they said, screw it. Let's just move on to the rest. Let the guy pay the big bill. So we're going to dive in now and show you the symptoms of what it does and what it has been doing even previously before the customer spent $5,000 and is still doing it after spending the $5,000. I'll go ahead and start it and then turn on the headlights and you can see it. Alright, I'm going to turn on the headlights now, put a load on the engine. Put it in gear. And slowly wanting to try and stall. It's not fixed. The customer was very adamant on the phone with Crazy D in the office that the symptoms are identical to when he brought it, and it is identical today. So why did we spend all of it? Guys, I wouldn't be able to even move forward to a timing belt or shocks or struts until me and Danielson or whoever's working on this has moved past and solved the original complaint. You do a bunch of work, it didn't work, it's not fixed, you don't just go, okay, let's pretend we don't see that part and let's put some struts on. No. Because the customer is probably going to say, I'm not spending the rest of the money until you solve it. So I'll go get my smoke machine and show you guys what we found. There's 2 issues going on that has nothing to do with anything these people replaced. Let me go grab it and get it set up. So just to remind you guys what a smoke machine does, it just puts very low pressure smoke and you can put it into the intake or whatever system you're looking at, and if there's leaks, smoke will literally come out. I'll go ahead and turn it on. And it puts out some dense smoke for us to see. So I'll go ahead and turn it off. We're going to hook it up to this intake boot right here. Okay. Go ahead and put this in here, and we'll turn it back on. So the bigger the system, the longer it's going to take for the smoke to build up and show the leak. Example, intercooler or something like that. It can take a while to fill that whole chamber up with smoke. So that's what we're doing here. We're waiting for it to fill up. So this system's too big, so we're going to block off the other end that goes to the air box because the smoke is billowing into the air box. We're going to do the colonoscopy method, Mrs. Wizard.
Ooh, sounds pleasant, dear.
I'm going to pump this up into here. This will block off this end of the intake duct, just like that. Now we'll turn our smoke back on.
Oh, Wizard, I see it. I see it.
Look at that, guys. Now this part we know is smoke's supposed to come out because that's part of the vacuum line. But look at this. All under here is just stream. Look at that, guys. This boot is split really, really bad. So that's part one of why it's running so rough. Engines don't like vacuum leaks, especially when there's an airflow sensor and oxygen sensors and things involved on an electronic ignition system or electronic fuel injection. Vacuum leaks are bad. We have a huge one right after the airflow sensor on that boot. Very common on these, actually. So I'll go ahead and hook everything back up. We'll start the engine and let you hear and see part two of why this thing's running terrible. Now we got it starting to run rough. Got the headlights on. I'm going to put my microphone right next to the EGR valve. You can hear it clanking around in there. The pintle is broken. So what is an EGR valve? It only exists for one reason: emissions. If we lived in a country or a world where emissions weren't even a problem or they didn't even care about them, there would be no such thing as an EGR valve. It wouldn't even be invented. But why it exists is to take exhaust gases and put them back into the intake and reburn them and kind of clean up the exhaust a little bit. With sitting there idling, it shouldn't be operating. It's mainly used on the highway. When you get into cruise situation, you got your cruise control on, it'll start to open the EGR valve. That's typically the way those work. This one's rattling. You just heard it. It sounds like it's... And me and Daniel's son verified that if we can stick a screwdriver in there and force it to be shut from the underneath the diaphragm, the idle will clear up. It's not all the way cleared up because we still have a cracked boot. But those two items right there, if we kind of seal up the boot with our hands and also hold the EGR valve, the idle starts to come back and be normal again. That wasn't hard. It didn't take a NASA rocket science degree. $5,000. And it was just those two small items that this issue would be solved. Then we could talk about all the other things. But this really angers me. I would feel terrible that if a customer spent this kind of money and I know that that vehicle is leaving out of my shop just as bad as it was when it came in, and said, screw it, I don't care. I really don't care. Just pay the bill and shut up. That's just no way to treat people. Here's the thing. Do you think this customer will return to that shop ever again? No. I like people to keep coming back. We have some customers that have been coming to us for over 10 years because we do good work, honest work. This was dishonest. This was a lie. It was a scam. So when I told you at the beginning of the video we had another scam to show you, this is an absolute scam job. It's bad. Now some of the items that were done, it did need them. At 200,000 miles, it was very likely time for the timing belt and all those things. Some fluid services, some struts, some brakes. Okay, I get it. But I can't charge for those things or even start on that work until I have guaranteed finished and fixed the original problem. When a car comes in with a major problem and maybe check a few other things, I don't check the few other things until I guaranteed fixed the main problem. What I see here, like I just mentioned, is that they did a plenum gasket, which it didn't need. They needed an injector done. It didn't need it. Spark plug, didn't need it. It's still running rough, running terrible because of vacuum leaks, because of EGR failure on the EGR valve, not because of the other things. So the work that was done to solve this problem in the engine was a waste. And a GDI service with BG chemicals on a vehicle that's non-GDI, absolute waste of time. I would never push that on somebody. So the customer brought it to us. They said, you know what? I like this vehicle. I want to go fishing in it. I don't want to give up yet. But he's at that line. He's like, if Omega can't fix it, I might just abandon this vehicle. I have as much money as the whole car is worth into it. It's still running terrible. He's like, I'm at that line, guys. I'm about to let this car loose. We're going to be able to fix it. It's not going to cost $5,000. Probably going to be $500, somewhere around there or less. So I definitely wanted to do a video for you guys today. If you're dealing with a shop and you have one primary problem, like it's running bad, running really bad, do not move forward to anything else until they've guaranteed solved the first problem. If they say it needs struts, it needs this, and you can say, how about that first problem I told you about? Did you fix that yet? You may even want to go down and verify it's fixed. I've mentioned in previous videos that a lot of shops today push a lot of services. You might come in for a few small items. They're going to push a fuel cleaning service, a coolant flush, push this and push that. You really need this. If you don't get this done, your car could crash. They lie to you. So be careful about that. That's basically what happened in this situation. There was some things that needed to be done, but they didn't address the primary concern. It's still broken. Services are needed. I recommend services should be done at scheduled maintenance. When certain things, certain miles have been achieved, you should service your vehicle. But I'm a firm believer that we do not service a vehicle until we fix the primary problem, like I've mentioned several times. So the customer is very upset with the previous shop, as you can imagine. He's very, very upset. He actually told us, reveal the name of the shop, tell him who it is, run him into the ground. We're not going to do that. I have a life to live. I don't want to be in and out of court for the next 6 months or a year. I don't. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. You got to see what is really wrong with this 3.3 liter Nissan and how it had nothing to do with anything that was fixed at this previous shop at all. So if you're curious what kind of tools we are going to use to work on this Nissan or that Chevy or the Maybach or the Ferrari or the XL, all these different cars in the shop, the tools we use in the shop are listed for sale on our Amazon affiliates link in the description below. If you purchase anything there, we get a small cut and we really appreciate it. Make sure to hit the subscribe button because there's so many more videos to come. Thanks for watching.